than cherry blossoms. Let's talk about the eurozone, because this report that I know you've been looking at, it's actually the Dutch Freedom Party that commissioned it. This is the smallest of the three parties in the government coalition. It's part of the government. Very hostile to the monetary union, wants Netherlands to leave the eurozone. So first question is, everyone focuses on maybe someone exiting the eurozone from the periphery. Could we all be surprised and, hey, there's a nation from the core saying, sayonara, I want to take my ball and go home?
You shouldn't be surprised by this at all. In fact, I talked about it, I think, last October. Michael Pettis at China Financial Markets actually said that the best possible scenario, and I happen to agree with them, would be for the Netherlands, for Germany to exit, leave the rest of the Eurozone to all the nanny states that want it. Certainly, if you look at the perspective from Germany and the Netherlands, they would be able to go back to a credible currency if they left right now. If instead we see Greece leave, Portugal leaves, Spain leaves, what are their currencies going to look like? And they're going to default. They're going to default on all that debt. And what banks are holding that? Well, of course, the German banks are holding that. The French banks are holding that. The UK banks are holding that. So I think you get more bang for the buck, actually, by having Germany and the Netherlands leave than you do by doing this in piecemeal fashion. Of course, unfortunately, the way they're going about this, Lauren, is, you know, that they're heading on this piecemeal fashion, and they're trying to stop it every bit of the way. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. They've thrown 200 to 300 billion euros at trying to prevent Greece from leaving when it was a 40 billion problem 2 years ago. And now they're blaming Greece. And all these doomsday reports are out there saying, you know, all these scenarios are going to happen, you know, and they're blaming it, that it's all going to cascade on Greece.
Yeah, and we've seen that continue and continue. And I want to get more into what the bailout scenarios could continue to look like going forward. But I also want to get into some of the juicy details of this report that show how the Eurozone got into this situation, how surplus and peripheral nations got into this situation in the first place. It doesn't look like it was all so innocent to us, Mish. I want to bring up one of these charts from the report, the current account balance from 1998, which was before the euro exchange rate was locked in, to 2007. And what you can essentially see there is that this was a net positive change for Germany and the Netherlands. They've done better since joining the euro, and it was negative for a whole bunch of other countries: Belgium, France, Italy, Ireland, Spain, Greece. Even some of those countries in there had surpluses, and then they went to deficits. So you've had countries that have benefited from the euro and those that certainly have not. Mish, how did that happen, and did the euro have something to do with it?
Well, the euro had everything to do with it. It's for multiple reasons. You have an interest rate policy that's, I called it one size fits Germany, but in reality, in retrospect, I think it's one size fits none. But certainly the ECB twisted interest rate policy at every possible, you know, way for the benefit of Germany and France, not for the benefit of Greece. So, you know, that's one aspect of it. But the second aspect of it, it just didn't make any sense at all. We've talked about this before. Yeah, there's nothing new here. The currency unions without fiscal unions simply don't work. There's never been one in history that's worked. This one's not going to be any different. And the best solution right now is actually just to accept that fact.
Yeah.
You know,
stop trying to push for this fiscal union that doesn't seem to be happening. I want to get to that thing you said, though, about one size fits Germany with the interest rates, because we have a great chart from this report, too, showing the short-term interest rates at in the different nations. I want to bring that up, because essentially what this shows was that the real rates were higher for Germans than for Greeks. So yes. Explain how this is a direct result of the monetary union creating artificially higher propensity towards savings for Germans and the Dutch, but incentivizing the borrowing and the spending in the periphery nations.
This has to do a lot with fiscal policies of these nations as well. You look at the retirement age in Germany versus, say, the retirement age in Greece, the retirement age in Spain. You look at the public sector of Greece, of Spain, of Portugal. Compare that to the public sector and all the public unions. So you've got fiscal policies that did not mesh. Along comes the Eurozone, lowering the interest rate across the board, you know, at a time when really Spain needed a higher interest rate, Greece needed a higher interest rate. So what you had is unsound borrowing in Greece, and you had unsound investment in Spain and in Ireland, where we had all these property bubbles. Portugal and Italy, meanwhile, are just, plodding along. This has not done them any good. It hasn't done them any harm. But in aggregate, it's done harm to everyone. I mean, and it's going to bust apart. The throwing more money at these problems simply cannot fix these fundamental flaws of interest rates, fundamental flaws in fiscal policies. They're trying to do it now, but they're doing it in a way that's going to force more austerity on Greece. It cannot possibly work. More austerity on Portugal cannot possibly work. And we're seeing resistance right now from Spain saying, essentially, to the EMU, screw you, we are simply not going to do what you say. We are not going to reduce our budgets to 4.4% as we agreed to. And Lauren, what is the EMU? What are they going to do? They're going to fine Spain? If these policies, if these agreements worked, they would have worked already. Right. Germany was one of the biggest violators, actually, when the eurozone was put together, of these fiscal policies that it's now imposing on every other country. It cannot work.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I completely hear what you're saying, and they are trying to paper over it with a lot of pain that countries at this point, some aren't tanking, which for good reason, why they shouldn't. But I want to get back to what you said about the interest rates and the effect of that, because I just want to follow up and ask, in what ways was the periphery subsidizing the surplus nations? In what way were they being, the exports being subsidized of the surplus nations?
I don't know if I would look at it that way. I mean, you can make a case, you can blame Germany or you can blame Greece. And what we have here is both sides blaming each other. And in essence, they're both right. They're both guilty. They both knowingly entered this arrangement, knowing what would happen. Greece is saying, oh, we don't want to bail out, or Germany is saying, we don't want to bail out Greece. And then, okay, why'd you lend them that money then?
Exactly.
They're going to default on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I want to bring up one more chart. I want to bring up one more chart that kind of gets to this and see what you think about it, because it's Dutch and German net foreign assets. It's another interesting one. And it basically attempts to show the loss that Dutch and German citizens have booked since entry into the euro as a result of their speculative investment in peripheral debt, U.S. subprime paper. Is this another example of the effects of what you don't want to call subsidies, but I guess what I'm calling subsidies?
Oh, subsidy is a good word. I mean, but you just have to look at this from 2 points of view. Yeah. It's not that Greece is entirely wrong here. And certainly Germany's right. I mean, look at the fiscal policies in Greece. Look at the public union sector and the productivity in Greece. The only way this can be fixed, and Germany is indeed right on this, is you have to attack those public unions. You have to go after them. You have to restructure these pension plans. You have to do something about these fiscal promises that cannot possibly be met. By the way, the United States is going to soon be in the same situation here. In fact, it is already. We can talk about that at another time.
Yeah.
But all of these imbalances, but these were known in advance by both countries. It's just not like, Germany can look back and say, oh my God, we didn't see it coming. Well, if you didn't see it coming, then you were stupid.
Then you weren't looking very hard.
Line.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those bailouts that you say are just not going to solve the problem, because I want to look at total debt, because a lot of people talk about the sovereign debt, but you have to look at private debt too, and kind of to see the whole picture. This chart, final one, I won't bring up any charts after this, I promise. It shows corporate debt versus cash flow in all of these countries, and it shows just basically how high corporate debt is for France, Spain, and Portugal. So Mish, who's on the line to bail out the big corporations and banks in those countries, and could those end up being on the public balance sheet, those unrealized losses?
Well, if you look at the policies that presidential candidate Holland is proposing, one might suspect that they're going to balance this on the backs of the wealthy. If in Spain they've got different ideas. In other countries they want to do it by euro bonds and get everyone all out of debt. So you've got all of these various proposals floating around. Sarkozy's got his own ideas. The thing is, there's no agreement anywhere, Lauren, on any of these things. None of them can possibly be approved because that's what's going to take. Germany's not going to approve euro bonds. Certainly France might go it alone and do this financial transaction tax that they're trying to do. There's various proponents in Germany that actually want to do that, but the Netherlands doesn't. Finland certainly doesn't. The UK doesn't, and caused quite a stir back in December. So after these elections, let's just see what we're at. We're heading for a disaster. I think Holland is probably going to win the French election. I think the Merkel coalition is going to bust apart. There's this new PVV party, not new, but although they're a minority policy party in the Netherlands, they're actually a vital part of that coalition. It is the only thing holding together the Netherlands government.
A lot of political predictions there from you too, Mish, and I like that, you know, there's a huge gap between concept and reality. I want to keep talking about this because while we're on bailouts, I want to get to the U.S. as we see those bailouts become part of the conversation in Super Tuesday and the presidential kind of debate. We're got to go to break quickly, but we will be back with more with Mike Shedlock. Mish, so stick around.